Do you like my new glasses? Sorry, what do you mean? That's not why you clicked on this video? I don't understand. Sorry, I literally just picked these up from the opticians, so I kind of wanted to show them off, although I'm getting really bad reflection from them, which I've never had in any of my previous glasses. So that may be something I need to go back to Boots about. But why are we here, you ask? We are here to talk about Kindle Unlimited. That's their theme tune. I have decided to take the plunge to subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, and I mean subscribe because I have done the free trial once before a few years ago, and that means I can't have the free trial again. However, Kindle Unlimited is currently offering a deal in which you can get 6 months of Kindle Unlimited for £23, like in total. And it's usually £7.99 a month. So I thought this was the perfect time to really, you know, give it a shot, decide whether I liked it, see whether it's worth it, and either way, just read a lot of the books that I want to read that are available on it at a decent price. So I wanted to take you along on that journey with me. I am going to be doing a few things. I thought as we go, I will try and tot up the amount of the books I read on Kindle Unlimited based on what they would cost just to buy the Kindle copy by itself. And then we can see if I read £23 worth or how quickly I read £23 worth, because I feel like that's not going to be too much of an issue. Talk about what I read, what selection I find on there, what I enjoy, whether I enjoy what I read, and also just feedback on my overall thoughts on the subscription service. So yeah, I basically just wanted to open up this vlog and let you know what you will be in for. I've not set a time limit on this vlog. It is not going to last 6 months. I only plan on vlogging for the sort of beginning part of my subscription to talk more in depth about my experience. So far, I have downloaded 9 books. I think you can borrow up to 10 at a time, including thrillers, romance and fantasy, with a definite heavy leaning towards fantasy romance, because those are the genres that I seem to be finding the most of in my searches. I'd sat down before I even did this subscription and added a ton of stuff to a list of things I'd like to read on Kindle Unlimited, just to get a feel for whether there was enough for me even to bother trying this video. Like, was there enough things I was interested in? And there certainly were. That list ended up about 30 books long, and I'm sure I will find more as I use the platform. So I downloaded 9 from those 30, like I said, that fall into the genres I already mentioned, and plan on starting with them tonight. I think I'm going to kick things off with book 5 in Alex Liddell's Power of 5 series, because I have read the previous 4 books in that series, although it was a few years ago now, and had no idea there was even a 5th book. So it was quite fun to even find that out. So yeah, I'm going to be making a concerted effort to prioritise the books that I have currently downloaded from Kindle Unlimited at the moment, as well as look out for some more and hopefully get some more recommendations from other people who read Kindle Unlimited. I will let you know what I end up adding to my list, what I end up reading, etc, as we go on. So let's just get into the vlog, shall we? To update you on my Kindle Unlimited reading. I believe I mentioned that I was going to be starting my reading with one of Alex Liddell's books from the Power of 5 series, which actually happens to be book 5, and I am currently reading it. It's called Great Fall Cadet, I think. I'll insert the image here on this side. But yeah, I'd read books 1 to 4 a few years ago, and when I realised the series was on Kindle Unlimited, I thought, hey, I didn't even realise there was a book 5. So that had only come out last year, I believe, and I thought I'd give it a shot. I am about 25% through at the moment, and I am enjoying it, although it's kind of gone in an unexpected direction that I was not expecting it to. And I was looking at reviews on Goodreads, because I like to do that. I don't really care about spoilers. And I realised that this new setup sort of persists through the next 3 books. So it's actually going to be quite different through the next 3 books. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I kind of hope that some of the stuff that's happened at the beginning of this one would be resolved in the book I'm currently reading, but I don't think it is going to be. And for that reason, I was thinking, do I want to keep reading it? Do I want to put it down? It's not exactly what I was expecting it to be. But then it's only taken me, you know, it's not taken me very long to get 25% of the way through. It's quite a quick read. And I do still like the characters. And yeah, I think I need to sort of cross that bridge. Like, I expected something a little bit different. I've got something a little bit different, but it doesn't mean I'm not necessarily going to enjoy it. So I'm going to keep reading it for now. But it's quite interesting because I did immediately sort of start weighing up the pros and cons of DNFing a book on Kindle Unlimited, because for one, I didn't buy it, so I don't feel like, oh, I spent my money on this book and I'm not going to finish it, which is a good thing. But at the same time, as it was a book that I was thinking maybe I'll put down for now rather than put down forever, it also meant that I was aware if I did want to come back to read it, I would have to still be subscribed to Kindle Unlimited or buy it. So that is the thing. You can't, if you're not planning on being subscribed forever and you want to return to a book, that's not as easy. So it's sort of like pros and cons. Although the book itself, I double checked, would have cost me £3.89 on Kindle. So I've already saved myself £3.89, which is pretty good going. I spent £23, I think I mentioned at the beginning of this video, but if you are regularly subscribing, it's £7.99 a month. So I'm almost halfway to the amount, which is pretty cool. But we follow a mortal woman who is living a pretty miserable life as the slave of this like really cruel landowner, and these fae come and take her away from that because they feel this like magical connection to her that they can't quite place, because it's a magical connection that doesn't usually happen between mortals and fae, but naturally she gets like dragged into it and ends up having to sort of prove herself. So it's a sort of training / quest type narrative with a ton of romance. This is a romance fantasy series, and I say a ton of romance because there's literally romance between the female protagonist and all 4 of the male fae. It is like a polyamorous relationship. It's just fun, like it's light and easy, and has some nice sort of like dramatic stakes that you would hope for from a fantasy novel. Yeah, I like the series, and they're quite quick and fast, so I have to say it's quite nice if you were going to pick up this series and read them all back to back that they are on Kindle Unlimited, because they would rack up in terms of price if you were to buy all 7, I believe there are, or all 4, which is the original series. Whereas this way you could just like pay a one-off price of Kindle Unlimited and read them back to back if that's what you want to do. So yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at and what I've been thinking in terms of Kindle Unlimited. So yeah, I will keep reading this book and let you know when I start another one. So is anybody surprised to hear that I have started another book? I'm not, to be honest. I've not completely given up on the previous book I was talking about. I'm definitely going back to it. But I just felt like trying something else. Maybe possibly because I have too many choices. But I decided to start reading Blanche on the Lamb, which is actually a book I'd sort of looked up at the beginning of this year and thought I wanted to read. And when I saw that it was on Kindle Unlimited, saved it to either buy at some point or possibly read if I ever subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, which we all know I have because that's the whole point of this video. So I'd found it on a list of like thriller mystery novels written by authors who aren't white, because I was looking to diversify, particularly in that genre, because it was one that I was struggling to find authors who weren't white in, and that was one that came up a lot. So I'd added it to a to-read list, and now I've started reading it, and I'm about 20% of the way through, or maybe a little bit over 20% actually, so I've been speeding through it and I'm enjoying it. But the other thing I wanted to say, and I don't know if I was just being silly, but I had no idea that you could get audiobooks with Kindle Unlimited, but it seems that certain books available on Kindle Unlimited, you can also get the Audible audiobook for free if you're on Kindle Unlimited. So I actually downloaded the audiobook of The Will and the Wilds, which is a fantasy book, on audiobook, and I had no idea. I actually went to download it because I thought I was downloading the book and realised I also had access to the audiobook via my Audible app, and I do not currently have an active Audible subscription. I just have the Audible app because obviously I have books on there that I've bought in the past that I either want to re-listen to or listen to for the first time, and thought, oh, wow, I can download an audiobook? What's this all about? So it probably is a lot more limited. I need to do some more research and see what else is available via Audible. through Kindle Unlimited, but that was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that, and I'm almost finished my current audiobook, which is Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. That's what I'm listening to, an audiobook on Audible that I just bought a few months ago. So once I've finished that audiobook, I plan on starting this one because, hey, why not get the most of my Kindle Unlimited membership whilst I'm a member and listen to some audiobooks too. Yeah, so I don't know, did you know that? Is that like common knowledge? Because I had no idea. So I just thought I would give you an update on my various different reading formats at this point. So I just settled myself down for the evening to do a little bit more reading. Oh, why is this going out of focus? And I thought I would actually briefly share with you the books I currently had downloaded on Kindle Unlimited. Why are you not focusing? There, okay. Because I made myself a folder on my Kindle called Unlimited with the books I currently had downloaded onto it. Like I said, there's 9. I'm currently reading Blanche on the Lamb, which I think I've already mentioned, as well as having read a bit of Great Falls Cadet, but I also downloaded The Deal with the Elf King. I'm trying to read it through my phone right now, as well as Nice English Girls, which is a FF historical romance, To Kill a Kingdom, which is an our fantasy, Echoing Onyx by Sharon Shin, which actually I have read 14% of because this was one of the books I read ages ago when I had my Kindle Unlimited free trial, but didn't get around to finishing. So I would definitely like to do that this time around. But as I've mentioned before, I do have 6 months, so that should be fine. And I'm a big fan of Sharon Shin as it is. I then also have downloaded The Goblin's Gold. What does that say? The Goblins and Gold, which is by Emma Ham, another one of my favourite fantasy authors, Bunny, and The Iron King. So like I said, quite a few fantasy books and a couple of other things dotted in there. But yeah, that's currently what I have downloaded, plus there is the audiobook that I already mentioned to you, which would make up my 10th thing I've currently borrowed, and that's on my Audible app. So yeah, I'm going to carry on reading now, but in case you were interested in that, sorry, I don't know why it can't decide whether it wants to focus or not. Anyway, that's irrelevant. I will check in with you once I've done some more reading. Hi, so I am obviously on a walk. This is not my garden, and I decided whilst I was on that walk to start listening to my audiobook I got from Kindle Unlimited. I'm not far into it yet, but I thought this would be a good opportunity. The main thing I actually wanted to update you on whilst I was having a little rest break was that I have finished Blanche on the Lamb. So all round I had a positive experience with this book. I thought it was a really, really well written with a really well-rounded character. Loved Blanche, and I thought it gave such insight into the experience of black women in America. It came out in 1992, but I think it all pretty much still stands from what I understand, and that was all incredible. The mystery side of things, however, was a little bit lackluster for me. Like, I didn't find the actual mystery plot very compelling. So the fact that I picked it up as a mystery novel was a little bit like out of sync with then what I felt I read about. I still think it was a really good book. I just don't necessarily think it was a really good mystery. I think it was good for other reasons, and I'd still recommend it because of that. I'm glad I also managed to finally get around to reading it, because like I said, it had been in the back of my mind to read for a few months, and I double checked if I'd bought it on Kindle as an ebook, it would have cost me £4.49. So I've done quite well at picking out books that aren't that cheap currently on Kindle, that, you know, wouldn't have cost me 99p. So I feel like I am getting my money's worth, but that's also because I am paying half the price of a regular subscription. Like I mentioned, I paid £23 for 6 months, which comes out at about half the price monthly than it usually would be. So far, saying I have read a chunk of one book and the entirety of another book that collectively together would have come to about £8. I have made use of the subscription up to the point of what it would have cost for a full month, if that makes sense, whereas I haven't actually paid that, so it feels extra worth it to me. And the thing is, I am making a concerted effort to read on Kindle Unlimited at the moment because I want to make the most of having the subscription. I want to read a few books that I've been meaning to read anyway and had saved up on a wish list specifically for Kindle Unlimited. But if I was just generally subscribed at £7.99 a month, I don't know if I would do enough of my personal reading on the app every month to make £8 worth of reading up. So far I'm feeling like it was worth it to do it this way, in which I already had a big long TBR pre-set out, pre-prepared, and also got it for a discounted price. But I wouldn't necessarily say for me it's a regular subscription I'm going to maintain after these 6 months. That's just personal as well. I obviously have a lot of books at my disposal and I like to read quite widely, and there is a limitation to what Kindle Unlimited supplies. Like, it feels very heavy on certain genres that I've already mentioned as opposed to other books. So that's kind of what my mind is making of it so far, but I am going to read and listen to a little bit more before I give you my final thoughts on this reading vlog. And like I said, I'm still certainly going to be taking advantage of it whilst I have it, plus I feel like it was worth it for what I paid for it. So I thought I would just catch you up and give you my final thoughts as I did my makeup, because that's what vlogs are all about, right? The casual element. And honestly, I can't really believe that I'm filming a clip for my vlog where I literally have no makeup on. This is something, even like 2 years ago, I would have I had a panic attack about putting on the internet, but this is what my skin looks like. 29-year-old acne, it's cool. We're all good here. So, what have I read since I last spoke to you? So it's actually been about 2 weeks since I started the vlog. I haven't been vlogging every day. I've just been catching up with you here and then. And obviously I last mentioned that I was listening to an audiobook, which I will insert the cover of, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very easy listen. It fulfilled a lot of quite like common fantasy tropes. It wasn't groundbreaking, but it was good fun, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it was well written and well told and fast-paced and compelling, but obviously, like I said, not necessarily that innovative, and I'm okay with that. Sometimes with my fantasy, that's all I want is a good version of something sort of old and familiar that I know I like, and this gave me major Enchantment of Ravens vibes, which I know a lot of people really enjoyed. So I'd say if you like books like that, then this one is worth picking up. It is about a young woman who lives near an enchanted forest, which is a sort of portal or a halfway point between the sort of fairy realm. They're not really called fairies, but the mistlings, which are basically kind of like evil fairies, and they come in lots of different types. Some are more humanoid than others, and she's always been very fascinated with them since she was young because her mother was murdered by one, and obviously growing up nearby she's had to learn to kind of put wards on her home and defend herself and her father, who she lives with. So that's the setup. Then of course there is a male mistling or fairy creature that comes into the plot that she strikes a deal with, and yeah, need I say any more? It was good fun. I liked the audible narration. I think it was well narrated, and I'm glad I read it. I like the author's style. And of course I have had a look since then at what else is available on audiobook via Kindle Unlimited, i.e. what comes with audible narration as well as the book. And there is a few things on there. I would say the selection is obviously more limited even than the ebooks, and it's not necessarily a selection that I'm that interested in enough of to make it a reason to use the subscription service. I think if you're a big audiobook listener and you want to get your money's worth with an audiobook subscription, I would recommend Scribd. I always recommend Scribd. They're my favourite service when it comes to audiobook subscriptions. They do have ebooks on there as well, but the reason I was interested in Kindle Unlimited is because I really struggle to read ebooks on my phone or my computer screen. I prefer to read them on my Kindle, where obviously the technology is slightly different, it's less harsh on my eyes, and this is true of some people and not for others, but it can give me headaches when I read on my phone. So I wanted something that gave me ebooks on my Kindle, which obviously Scribd does not, and there is a different selection. But in terms of just practically speaking, I don't really use Scribd a lot for ebooks. I do occasionally with like a short story or a novella, but generally I use Scribd for audiobooks, and that's the main reason I would recommend it. Like, that's the service I would recommend it for. I'm just butting in and interrupting myself here because I realised I completely forgot to talk about the price of The Will and the Wild. So I double checked and it's currently only 99p on Kindle. So that one, in terms of Kindle book, I didn't save a ton of money, but if I had listened to the audiobook, it would have cost me a $7.99 Audible subscription. So there's two ways of looking at that one, and I have no real strong opinions on which one is the right one. I do have obviously quite a few more books on my list that I'd like to read for Kindle Unlimited, and I am still going to be subscribed for just over 5 months still, so I would love more recommendations if you have them, because I just want to take advantage of it whilst I'm subscribed. This isn't something I plan on like keeping up forever, but it's something I might resubscribe to in the future for short periods of time. I quite like that this was obviously a 6 months deal, because it means I feel like I've got the space to read things and there's no pressure to read them all in a month. But I think it's something that I would keep an eye on what I'm interested in reading on, and then for short periods of time subscribe and read those things rather than constantly have a subscription to it, if that makes sense. And I don't think I'm the only person to say or do that, so that's kind of where I'm at with it at the moment. But yeah, I would definitely love more recommendations if you have them. I also don't think I gave much details about the plot of Blanche on the Lamb, so I'll quickly do that as well, just so I've covered all of my bases in terms of what I've been reading, and for those of you that are interested. So we follow Blanche, who's been sentenced to prison time completely unfairly, and she is very well aware herself of the sort of racial prejudices and injustices within the incarceration specifically, plus she suffers from claustrophobia and is terrified of going to prison, so she decides to flee her custody before she's imprisoned, and go to a job. She's a housekeeper, and go to a job that she was already signed up to do, which is in the countryside, to go away with this family and sort of bide her time until some checks come in that she's waiting for, so she has a little bit of money in the bank and can set herself up outside of the state she currently lives in, and, you know, avoid prison time, etc. And while she's working for this family, obviously some nefarious things take place and there is lots of family secrets. Like I said, the mystery for me wasn't necessarily the most compelling part of the plot, but I found Blanche as a character a very compelling character. So that's what that one is about if you're interested. But generally, I just hope you enjoyed this reading vlog with its specific theme. I want to get back into doing more reading vlogs with various themes, so I thought this would be a fun one to start with, because of course I was trying out Kindle Unlimited, but I just thought it would be a nice like way to ease back into this format of video. So whilst you're here, if you have any reading vlog theme requests as well, please do let me know. But until the next one, happy reading, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye everyone.